Examiner's comment. Internal control question typically require internal control efficiency to be identified, half marks each, explained, or relevant recommendation to address the control. Often a test of control the external auditor would perform to assess whether each of these controls, if implemented, is operating correctly. Internal control question may also require a covering letter to management to accompany the list of deficiencies and recommendation. Occasionally, as in September 2015, candidates may be asked to identify internal control strengths as well as deficiencies. Auditor work, internal control over financial reporting. Understand the component of internal control over financial reporting. Documents the system. Auditor work, internal control over financial reporting. Understand the component of internal control over financial reporting. Document the system. Narratives, flowchart, questionnaires. Test the system for deficiencies. Design, perform test of controls to find deficiencies in implementation. Report deficiency to the management. Decide extent of substantive testing. If internal control system is strong, then less substantive. If internal control is weak, then more substantive procedures should be used. Substantive testing procedure should be used. So what is internal control? Internal control represents the system or policies and procedure implemented by an organization. The process that is internal control over financial report is the process designed, implemented and maintained by TCWG to provide reasonable assurance about reliability of financial reporting, effectiveness of operation and compliance with laws and regulations. So um, internal control is basically a system rules, procedure and checks the company puts in place to make sure money is not stolen or misused, records are accurate, work is done efficiently, laws are followed. We can think of it as like a protective shield around the company's financial information. So internal control over financial reporting is for that we have to keep three things in mind. Okay, that is designed, implemented, and maintained by TCWG. Maintained by TCWG. So the purpose is reliable financial statement, efficient operation, compliance with laws. Why does an auditor need to understand internal control? Internal control assure management of accuracy of financial statement, that the operation of entity are conducted efficiently and that the entity has complied with all the laws and regulations which are applicable to the entity. The auditors just don't check the numbers, they check whether the system producing those numbers is trustworthy or not. The objective of internal control relevant to audit include avoidance of fraud, error, wastes, and inefficiency. So it detects the fraud and errors also. Maximum accuracy of all records and that data and statements. So it means it ensures accuracy of records. Enables auditor to determine the degree of reliance they can place on various systems. These will enable the auditor to assess the correctness, truth and fairness of the financial system, deciding how much they can rely on the system. Okay. Informing management about weaknesses detected in internal control so that the corrective action can be taken. Enabling planning of the audit. Understanding the component of internal control. While planning the audit, the auditor understands the various components of internal control so as to identify the type of potential misstatement, consider the factors that affect the risk of misstatement, design effective substantive test. So it means it helps to identify weaknesses and reporting them. So in short, we can say good control is equal to less audit risk equals to fewer detailed checks needed. If there is good control, then there is less audit risk. So we can design stuff. We can test this. We can do the substantive procedure in lesser amount. So component of internal control over financial reporting. ISC 315, identifying and assessing the risk of material misstatement through understanding the entity and its environment, considers the component of an entity's internal control. It identifies the following component. There is control environment. Second, entity's risk assessment process. Third is information system and communication. Fourth, control activities. And fifth is monitoring of controls. So first, in control environment, understand client's control environment. The control environment set the tone of an organization, include influencing the control consciousness of its people. It includes attitudes, awareness, and action of TCWZ concerning the entity's internal control and its importance in the entity. The control environment has many elements such as communication and enforcement of an integrity and ethical values. Essential elements which influence the effectiveness of design, administration, and monitoring of control. So it means ethics and honesty. B number, commitment to competence. Management consideration of competence level for particular job. How those level translates into requisite skills and knowledge. So it is competence of employees, whether employees are competent or not. Management philosophy and operating style. Management approach to taking and managing business risk and management attitudes and actions toward financial reporting, information processing, and accounting functions and personnel. So it is management's attitude. C number is D number, organizational structure. The framework within which an entity's activities for achieving its objectives are planned, executed, controlled, and reviewed. It is E number, assignment of authority and responsibility. How authority and responsibility for operating activities are assigned, how reporting relationship and authorization hierarchies are established. F number, human resources policies and practices. Recruitment, orientation, training, evaluating, counseling, promoting, compensating, remedial action. HR policies. Participation by TCWZ, their independence from the management and their experience, appropriateness of tools. So involvement of it is basically an involvement of TCWZ. The second number point of the component of internal control system over financial reporting is understand client risk assessment procedure. Auditor need to understand the management process to identify and assess risk in financial reporting. Auditor also need to understand actions taken by management to address this risk. The, the auditor will then evaluate whether there are deficiencies in client risk assessment process. So management, so we can say that management must identify risk, example fraud or error. Management must analyze them and take actions. An auditor need to check that are the management even aware of their risk or not. Okay. Third number of component is understand client system relevant to financial reporting plus communication. Auditor will understand the process by which transaction or events are initiated, recorded, processed, corrected, transferred to general ledger and reported in the financial statement. Auditor will also understand how the client communicates, financial reporting rules and responsibilities as well as important matters relating to the financial reporting. This is about how transactions are recorded, processed, and reported. How information flows inside the company. So if data is entered incorrectly, then everything after that is wrong. So fourth, understanding the control activities. Control activities are the policies and procedures which help ensure that management directives are carried out. Auditor has to understand control activities to assess risk of material misstatement in the financial statement and to design further procedure. Example of control are segregation of duties, assignment of roles and responsibilities to different people, thereby reducing the risk of fraud and error occurring The concept is that no individual should be responsible for more than one of the following duties: the authorization of transaction, the recording of the transaction in the accounting records, and the custody of the assets relating to the transaction. So we can say that no person should authorize, record, and hold the asset at the same time. Okay. Uh, Second one is information processing. Computer controls, including general IT controls, which covers a range of applications, support the overall IT environment, and application controls which operate on cycle or business process level. Details given. Authorization, approval of transaction by suitably responsible official to ensure transactions are genuine. Mean only approved transactions are allowed. Physical control, restricting access to physical assets such as gas, inventory, and plant and equipment, thereby reducing the risk of theft. Performance reviews, comparison, a review of the performance of the business by looking at areas such as budget versus actual result. Automatical controls, controls which check the automatical accuracy of accounting record. Checking calculations, means accounting reconciliation, comparison of an account balance with another source. Often this source is from third parties such as bank, with differences being investigated. So reconciliation means bank versus book balance. Understand the last one is understanding client monitoring process. Auditor will understand how internal control over financial reporting monitored, including whether there is an effective internal audit department or not. So we can say control must be reviewed regularly, and if there is any weak control, it should be improved. So it includes internal audit, ongoing supervision. So control that isn't monitored is like a it is being weakened. So computer control, general controls apply to the whole. It is a general control means apply to the whole system. Control on the information system ensures uh, which which ensure proper development of application. Example include making regular backup of data and storing them offsite, having an IT help desk and IT training for staff, keeping computer in locked rooms, having disaster recovery plan. All computers have login codes, antivirus software and firewalls, segregation of duties between programmer and users, review of the data center or information processing facilities should cover the adequacy of the air conditioning, temperature, humidity, power supply, uninterruptible power supplies, generators, smoke detectors. So in general controls, we can say that IT environment is secure. This general control ensure that the IT environment is secure and stable by by through backups, password, firewall, disaster recovery plans, locked servers, separate IT staff, and separation between IT staff and users. So the the control is another control is application control, that is specific transaction. Uh, Application control are those controls that are relating to transaction standing data relating to computer-based accounting system. They are specific to a given application and their objective are to ensure the completeness and accuracy of accounting records and the validity of entries made in those records. An effective computer-based system will ensure that there are adequate controls existing at the point of input, processing and output stages of computer processing cycle and overstanding data contained in master file. Application control need to be ascertained, recorded and evaluated by auditor as part of the process of determining the risk of matter misstatement in the audit client financial statement. Application control, this ensures accuracy, completeness, validity. Let's go to input control. Input control is data input control ensures the accuracy, completeness, timeliness of data during its conversion from its original source into computer data into a computer application. Examples are format checks. This ensures that information is input in correct form. For example, the requirement that that, that the date of the sale invoice be input in numerical format only, not numeric and alphanumeric. Range or reasonableness check. This ensures that input data is rejected or highlighted if it is outside preset parameters. For example, where an entity rarely, if ever, makes bulk buy purchase with the value in excess of $50,000, a purchase invoice with an input value in excess of 50,000 is rejected for review and follow up. So, range check is values within limit. Compatibility or dependence check. This ensures that data input from two or more fields is compatible. For example, a sales invoice values should be compatible with amount of sales tax charged on invoice. Data makes sense together. Sequence check ensures that sequential input of documentation or data is maintained. This facilitates completeness of processing by ensuring that documents processed out of sequence are rejected. For example, where pre-numbered goods received notes are issued to acknowledge the receipt of goods into physical inventory, any input of notes out of sequence should be rejected. This So it ensures no any missing documents are there. Controls totals. This also facilitates completeness of processing by ensuring that pre-input manually prepared control totals are compared to control totals input. For example, the total of all invoices such as gross value is manually calculated. The invoices are input, the system aggregates the total of input invoices gross value, and this is compared to control totals. This helps to ensure completeness and accuracy of input. Total is matching or not. It it see like that. Existence check, the system is set up so that certain key data must be entered, such as supplier name, otherwise the invoice is rejected. This helps to ensure accuracy of input. Required field failed, right? Required fields are filled or not, like that. Check digits verification. Check digits are used to protect against the transposition of data, that is errors arising due to accidental reversal of digits. This process uses algorithm to ensure that data input is accurate. Avoid number errors. Controlled count. Document counts. The number of invoices to be input are counted. The invoices are then entered one by one. At the end, the number of invoices inputs is checked against the document count. This helps to ensure completeness of input. One for one checking. The invoices entered into the systems are manually added back to the original purchase invoices. This helps to ensure completeness and accuracy of input. So uh, it ensures that that it is matching with source or not. Okay, processing controls. Processing control exists to ensure that all data input is processed correctly and that the data files are appropriately updated in a timely manner. For example, the balance carried forward on the bank account in a company's general ledger. Other processing controls should include subsequent processing of data rejected at a point of input. For example, a computer produced print out of rejected item. Formal return instruction notifying data processing personnel of the procedure to other processing controls that should include the subsequent processing of data rejected at the point of input. For example, computer produced printout of rejected item. Formal written instruction notifying data processing personnel of procedure to follow with regard to rejected item. Appropriate investigation or follow-up with regard to rejected item. Evidence that rejected errors have been corrected and re-input. So, processing control ensure that data is processed correctly, files updated properly. Correct bank balance is like, for example, correct bank balance is carry forward or not, like that. Output control. Output control exists to ensure that all data is processed and that the output is distributed only to prescribed authorized user, while the degree of output control will vary from one organization to another, dependent on the confidentiality of the information and size of organization. Common controls comprises that appropriate review and follow-up of the exception reports information to ensure that there is no permanently outstanding exceptions items. Careful scheduling of the processing of data to help facilitate the distribution of information to the end users on a timely basis. Ongoing monitoring by a responsible official of the distribution of output to ensure it is distributed in accordance with authorized policy. Term to remember is standing data. Standing data is the information that is held on computer file for long-term use. It is called standing data as it tends to change less frequently than the other data. Example of standing data would be the rate of sales tax to be applied to sales invoices, the hourly pay rate for a factory worker to be used when calculating payroll, employee bank account details, master file controls. The purpose of master file control is to ensure the ongoing integrity of the standing data contained in the master file. It is vitally important that stringent security controls should be exercised over all the master files. These this includes appropriate use of passwords to restrict access to master file data, the establishment of adequate procedures over the amendment of data, comprising appropriate segregation of duties and authority to amend being restricted to the appropriate responsible individual, regular checking of a master file data to authorized data by an independent responsible official. And what is the limitation of internal control? So we can say, what is the limitation of internal control component? The it also we can say like it is also an inherent limitation. Like even if there is well designed, well implemented internal control system, it does not completely eliminate the possibility of fraud or error. So it's in another word we can say inherent limitation of internal control system or component. So they are controls are far more expensive compared to the benefit from the system. Mean cost is more than benefit. If it is so, then it's like it's it's not that much relevant. It's not relevant. Overriding of control by management. As managements are responsible for controlling for the corporate governance. No, if they are overriding of control, if they are overriding those controls, then no one's gonna know. Fraud will not get detected because the more the high level of frauds, it's more difficult to detect the fraud. So and control system are not geared up to cater the to non-routine transaction possibility of human error. Okay, possibility of human error and possibility of fraud on account of collusion between employees. Let's say there is some we have segregate the company have segregation of duties between receipt of cash as well as the recording like account and recording of cash and the person who hold the physical cash. If they collide, if they work together, then they can commit a fraud. And so possibility that with the change in condition a control may not be modified and therefore may become inadequate. Okay. Obsolescence of controls. Okay, so we can see the exam structure that for each control issue, there will be we have to give deficiency, what is wrong, and we have to give explanation why it is a problem. We have to give recommendation how to fix it. And fourth number, the test of control, how auditor check it. Okay. For example, deficiency will be same person handled cash and records it. Explanation will be risk of free fraud and concealment. Recommendation will be separate duties. And test of control is observed roles and inspect records. Okay. So instead of memorizing everything blindly, We need to understand the laws every control exists to prevent a specific risk.